Welcome! Today we're going to be going over all the parallels you might have missed in the Torture Poets department to Taylor Swift's other albums. Without further ado, let's get started, and the format of this video is just going to be us going through album by album and seeing what parallels there are. And yes, there are parallels to each and every single one of these albums. Let's start with 1989.
Please leave me stranded. It's so romantic. How dare you think it's romantic, leaving me safe and stranded.
I find this parallel to be really interesting given the fact that it was almost definitely done purposefully. The lyrics in Down Bad, they almost exactly match the lyrics in New Romantics, making it hard for this to be a coincidence, and also the message of this parallel is just very clear, at least to me. In New Romantics, she says, "Please leave me stranded, it's so romantic." She's romanticizing this toxic, maybe not toxic, but tumultuous relationship, and then years later in Down Bad, she's like, wait, no, don't leave me stranded. Why'd you do that? This might be a reference to her maturing in regards to her relationships, and sort of as you get older, you seek less of that excitement and more of that security, or it could, just be a fun play on words. But in either case, I think this was done very purposefully. Moving on to another parallel in 1989, this one's actually not lyrical. If you look at the Fortnite music video, where Taylor and Post Malone are lying down on the ground in the papers, the shape of the papers is exactly the silhouette of Taylor in style, if that makes sense. I just thought that was a really cool parallel. I'm not so sure there's a deeper meaning behind this one, but it's a cool flashback. Let's move on to Reputation. In Ready For It, Taylor says, "Does this remind you of a particular song on the Torture Poets department? Because it sure as hell reminds me of one." In Fresh Out the Slammer, Taylor is calling a relationship jail. Jail being a synonym for slammer.
Handcuffed to the spell I was under, or just one hour of sunshine. Here's the baby box and ceiling.
And to my knowledge, this is about her leaving her relationship with Joe Alwyn, who she was with for 6 years, and moving on to somebody else. Ready For It was written around the time that Taylor came back from her, public cancellation in 2016. Half the album was about coping with the media. The second half of that album was about Joe Alwyn, because that's who she had been dating for the past 3 or 2 years prior to writing that album. So almost all the romantic songs on there are about Joe. This is a generalization. Okay, I know some songs she doesn't write about specific people. Anyway, my point is, in Ready For It, I think she's referring to Joe when she says he can be my jailer. This is then completely flipped back on him in the Tortured Poets department, where she says, I'm fresh out of that goddamn jail of a relationship. This is a theme that's also seen in some songs that Taylor has written over the years, where she doesn't explicitly call her relationship with Joe jail, but she implies it, I don't know if she did this on purpose or if she did this on accident, which I think she did, and then she realized that she actually told him that he could be her jailer way back when. It's just an interesting look into how relationships evolve. Anyway, let's move on. Keeping with the theme of Taylor Swift's reputation getting absolutely dragged through the mud in 2016.
My castle crumbled overnight. I brought a knife to a gunfight. They took the crown, but it's alright. Ditch the clouds, get the crown, baby, I'm the one to be.
In Call It What You Want, she says they took the crown, but it's all right. They meaning the media, the public, the people that destroyed her reputation. And then in The Alchemy, she's back. She says, ditch the clowns, get the crown. Both of these songs are very similar in a way. Both of them are very upbeat. And to me, it seems that Call It What You Want is upbeat despite what the public thinks of her. And then The Alchemy is still upbeat, still a little bit rebellious, but this time she's going along with the media a little bit, and she's like, I'm back, and I'm here, and I'm better than ever, and I'm gonna show you. And then there's also a final reference to her reputation in Cassandra.
When the truth comes out, it's quiet. They're burning all the witches, even if you aren't one.
Taylor did actually do a mashup of these songs on tour, and despite their subject materials being different, they're very much from the same era. To me, it looks like Cassandra was written about the Reputation era. I'm not going to go too deep into the lyrics here, but essentially Taylor Swift is talking about Cassandra of Troy, who was a fortune teller but was doomed to never be believed by those around her. And Taylor plays on this in her lyrics. I think she references nobody believing her back in 2016. There's also the line that says, "So they filled my cell with snakes" in Cassandra, and somebody said that this might actually be a reference to her physical cell phone being filled with snake emojis at that time, like in her Instagram comments. And moving on to the last parallel or parallels in Reputation. As we know, Taylor Swift loves her car metaphors, and the Tortured Poets Department was, of course, no exception.
Started with a kiss, but we must stop meeting like this, but it always ends up with a town car speeding.
Here, a getaway car is being used in all three scenarios. In But Daddy, I Love Him, she's sort of in this car driving off into the sunset with her lover, despite what everybody else thinks. But in The Bolter and in the Getaway Car song from 1989, I think a getaway car is actually being used in a very similar context. The Bolter seems to be about a person who's very non-committal and keeps leaving their relationships because they're scared. And the line, "It always ends up with a town car speeding," isn't actually both of them in the car, it's Taylor or whoever the song is about. Could be a made-up character. This one's very non-specific. It's about them essentially getting the hell out of that relationship. And from the fan theories I've seen on Getaway Car, the consensus seems to be that this song was written about Taylor using another person as a getaway car in order to escape from her current relationship. So, my point being, in both cases, she's getting the hell out of a relationship in a getaway car, and that's a fun parallel. Let's move on to Lover. Lover only has one parallel, but guys, this one hits hard. To me, Daylight seems to be about finally finding a person and finally seeing daylight after this tumultuous period in your life, whether it be with relationships or something else. And about this period in her life, Taylor says, "Luck of the draw only draws the unlucky, and so I became the butt of the joke." I think this is referring to her trying to clear the air, but unknowingly she's breathing in more smoke. She's doing more things that are bad for her. And if we take that meaning and then look at it in the context of The Black Dog, where she says 6 weeks of breathing clean air, I still miss the smoke. She's broken up with this person in The Black Dog. She's had 6 weeks of breathing clean air, doing things that are good for her, but she still misses this person like a bad habit. She still misses the smoke. So in both of these songs, she's using smoke in the exact same way, and I don't know if this is Taylor Swift's subconscious, just writing the songs with epic lyrics for her, or if she did this on purpose. But yeah, in The Black Dog, she knows that it's bad for her and she still misses the smoke, whereas in Daylight, she didn't know that the smoke was bad for her yet, and she was in that situation in her life.
The smell of smoke would hang around this long, 'cause I knew everything when I was young.
Moving on to the Folklore/Evermore era, I just grouped these together because they were released months apart, so they represent the same period in Taylor Swift's life.
Forgive me, Peter, please know that I tried to hold on to the days when you were mine. Tried to change the ending, Peter losing Wendy.
Personally, I think this parallel exists because Peter was a folklore reject, and was just pushed to the tortured poets department because, in my opinion, it was too obvious of a song or too Joe unrelated of a song to put on Folklore. Peter is all about a past relationship that just didn't work out, and the people promised to try and make it work in the future, but it didn't work out. Just like it didn't work out with Peter and Wendy, and Cardigan is sort of referencing the exact same thing. Tried to change the ending, Peter losing Wendy, but you know, it didn't work out. So one can assume that these are about the same narrative and just were not put on the same album. I've said before that I think these are Maddie songs, given the fact that she literally told Maddie Healy that Cardigan was about him on stage, and Peter references a relationship that she had when she was younger. But anyway. I don't know if this was done on purpose or on accident, and to be honest, I'm still trying to decode this, but from my perspective, in Evermore, she's catching her breath, staring out an open window, catching her death, essentially just being depressed, dying inside. And in I Look in People's Windows, she seems to see the same thing in her partner, and later in the song, he just leaves. So that might be an allusion to that. Like in Evermore, she was the one trying to catch her breath, or at least the subject of the song was trying to catch their breath. And in I Look in People's Windows, her partner is trying to do the same thing and she can't really do anything about it. Or, you know, this was done completely on accident and I'm grasping at straws here. Let me know in the comments below what you think. There's the concept of sister songs, which I firmly believe in, and I believe that Mad Woman is a direct parallel to Who's Afraid of Little Old Me. I'm just gonna put all the lyrics here. It's a very interesting contrast to being the mad woman in a relationship versus the world seeing you as a mad woman, which Who's Afraid of Little Old Me is about. Next, we have actually a good amount of parallels to one song, which is Lost/Love of My Life.
When your impressions, paintings of heaven turned out to face. Your integrity makes me seem small. You paint dreamscapes on the wall.
Both of these songs mention integrity in a way. In Peace, she says, I talk shit with my friends, it's like I'm wasting your honor. So she feels like the one that's a cheat in the relationship, while the person is literally painting these dreamscapes. And then in Lommel, I think it's really fun that she just turns this around when she got completely betrayed by a person and just goes, your paintings that you made for me, whatever, were complete fakes. So now the other person in the relationship has lost the integrity. There's also another parallel to Lommel in Evermore. I personally believe that the reason for this parallel is very simple. She was just simply talking about the same person in both of these songs. She tends to use the same metaphors for the same people in her discography. With Joe, a lot of fans noticed that she tends to use a lot of blue imagery. With Maddie, I think she's brought up the term of glowing a lot, but that's just me. In Ivy, she's talking about being unfaithful to someone, or at least this person infiltrating her dreams and his touch bringing forth an incandescent glow amidst her otherwise depressed state. And in Lommel, she's saying that she'll never feel this glow again. Moving on to Midnights, which has the final Lommel parallel.
Dancing phantoms on the terrace. Are they secondhand embarrassed that I can't get out of bed? 'Cause something counterfeits dead. It must be counterfeit. I think there's better.
Here, I think she's using counterfeit in the same way in both instances. She's saying her relationship is counterfeit in Glitch because she's so close to this person, she's fastening herself to them with a stitch, you know, she can't really believe it, so she's like, it must be fake. My relationship must be fake, it must be counterfeit. In Lommel, The context for this lyric is dancing phantoms on the terrace, are they second-hand embarrassed that I can't get out of bed because something counterfeits dead? So here it seems to me that she's talking about her relationship and being counterfeit, and the phantoms literally being embarrassed because she's grieving about something that wasn't ever real in the first place.
I used to switch out these cans. I just go.
This one's self-explanatory. In both of these instances, she's just choosing to refer to her past relationships as like all the Kens. In My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys, I find this to be fun because it's literally a song about toys. Next up, we have a pretty obvious one that a lot of people noticed, but it's, you know, fun nonetheless.
Will that make you remember me? Fade from this scarlet maroon, like it never happened. On her lips I used to call home, so scarlet it was maroon.
I think this parallel was either an accident, although I feel like it's hard to make it an accident, or these songs just had to be talking about the same person. People have speculated about the meaning of Maroon as a metaphor or as a song in general. The most convincing interpretation I've heard was that when she says it was so scarlet, it was maroon, it was like her love with somebody burned so bright that eventually it burned out and became maroon. The rust that grew between telephones solidifies this theory. The relationship slowly goes out. And maybe this same type of relationship is being referenced in Chloe or Sam or Sophia or Marcus. Next up, we just have a bunch of parallels in Midnights to So Long London.
Stop CPR after all is no use. The spirit was gone and it never comes to. I can't find a pulse, my heart won't stop anymore.
I think Taylor was finally connecting the dots for some people because during Midnights, people may have not known about the status of her relationship with Joe, and I feel like she's using So Long London in a lot of these instances to solidify the songs that were, in fact, about Joe. Next up isn't a lyrical parallel, but it is a musical parallel. I've found that I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, the musical introduction to it, is almost exactly identical to the intro of Mastermind. Let's take a listen. I have a feeling this was done purposefully because the songs are actually pretty similar. Mastermind is primarily about plotting to, you know, get together with someone and seduce them in a way. But there's also, I think it's the bridge that says, no one wanted to play with me as a little kid, so I've been scheming like a criminal ever since to make them love me and make it seem effortless. This is the first time I felt the need to confess. So maybe the entire song is honestly about trying to seduce the public, and it's not really about a person. And as we know, I Can Do It With a Broken Heart is essentially about more or less the same thing, where she's performing for the public despite having a broken heart. And both of these songs have such an upbeat tempo despite the horribly depressing lyrics. Finally, I just felt the need to mention, I've mentioned it in a previous video, but Down Bad seems to be a sequel to Snow on the Beach. The amount of space references in both of these songs is absurd, and Snow on the Beach is about this alien, this UFO passing by and leaving you in shock with the potential of what could happen, and Down Bad is in turn about this alien just straight up abandoning you after showing you a whole new world. I also think these two songs are about the same person. Finally, we're gonna circle back to actually the album Speak Now. There's a small parallel in this album to Robin.
You have no room in your dreams for regret, got nothing to regret.
Both of these songs are about never wanting to grow up and wanting to preserve the innocence of childhood, except in Never Grow Up, Taylor's probably talking about herself and her experiences. Whereas in Robin, she seems to be referencing Aaron Dessner's son, who's one of her producers, and his son's name is Robin, and he was born in 2016, so he's quite little. Finally, there's also a sister song on Speak Now to Thank You Amy in the Tortured Poets department, and that's Mean. They're literally written about the same thing, but decades apart. They're written about different people, definitely, but just the vibe is the same, so I thought I'd mention it. Finally, we have Red, Taylor's version, and another pair of sister songs that I felt the need to mention. We have Clara Bow and Nothing New, which are about essentially the same thing. It's about female artists having to reinvent themselves. Clara Bow had to reinvent herself when she went from silent films to talking films, and both of them follow the same exact lyrical train of thought, where it's just a bunch of musical icons getting, or actors or whoever it is, getting replaced over time by younger and more shiny versions. That's all I have to say for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and nicely let me know what I can improve in my videos.